Warm greetings and welcome, dear viewers, to this little stage where whispers turn into stories and screens turn into beating hearts. Welcome once again to the world of Turkish spotlight secrets. In a television season that felt like a restless sea of premieres and cliffhangers, one scene broke through the waves and stood still, like a lighthouse refusing to blink. Tonight we pull back the velvet curtain on the moment that turned a simple episode into a cultural tremor, a scene that made even the most casual scroller stop, breathe, and watch again. Before we dive into the spark that everyone is replaying, make sure you're subscribed, ring that bell so you never miss a revelation, and if you love the way we tell these stories, hit the join button to support Turkish spotlight secrets and unlock perks made for our closest insiders. Now, take a breath, because we're about to walk into the center of the storm. It began as a dance, at least that's how it looked on paper. But what unspilled on screen between Yağmur Yüksel and Barış Baktaş was no mere interlude. It felt like a pulse. The camera hovered as if hypnotized, orbiting the pair as they drew closer and pulled away, notes and silence weaving through their bodies until the music felt secondary to the story their eyes were telling. She moved with a luminous restraint, every lift of her hand an invitation and a challenge. He answered with that unforced charisma he wears like a second skin, grounding her grace with a steadiness that crackled. Together they didn't just keep time, they bent it, stretching seconds until they throbbed with meaning. From the first turn the air changed. Their gazes met in a way that wasn't rehearsed prettiness but a wordless conversation, the sort that makes you lean forward without realizing you're doing it. Each step landed with a soft inevitability, as if their bodies had been holding a secret for years and finally found the courage to confess. When the chorus swelled, the frame tightened, and you could feel the room grow small around them, the light softly punishing, the shadow between their faces a thin ribbon of electricity. It wasn't just choreography, it was an argument, a surrender, a dare. And it was the kind of heat that doesn't shout. It hums. Within minutes of broadcast, social media detonated. Timelines flooded with stunned reactions and breathless rewatches. Some fixated on the visuals, the rich palette and fearless focus, others typed through trembling fingers about the way one half-smile from Yağmur shattered them, or how a single half-step from Barış felt like a confession. You could hear it in the comments, that startled laugh people make when they recognize something too familiar to name. The phrase pure chemistry appeared so many times you'd think it had been scripted, and yet nothing about the reaction felt forced. The scene didn't just trend. It spread, like a rumor that everyone wanted to believe. But if you think that fever came out of nowhere, think again. What looked like effortless fire was forged the old-fashioned way. With sweat, patience, and obsession. Sources from the set whisper about weeks of grueling rehearsals with top-tier coaches, sessions that stretched late into the night, when the music looped so many times it became a heartbeat and the mirrors started to feel like witnesses. They didn't just learn steps, they excavated emotion, mapping a pathway for every pause, every inhale, every near touch. Yağmur searched for the exact tilt of a head that could read as both apology and invitation. Barış drilled the restraint of a man who wants and remembers why he shouldn't. By the time cameras rolled, they weren't parroting counts, they were speaking a fluently private language. On the day of filming, the studio fell silent in that special way crews honor real magic. People who are hard to impress stood very still. The director, sensing the rare alchemy unfolding in the frame, dialed down the interference and trusted their connection to lead. And when the track faded and the final pose dissolved into breath, the quiet cracked into applause that wasn't scheduled. Veteran technicians, those saints of cables and cues, smiled like they had been reminded why they fell in love with this business. That sort of reaction can't be faked. It comes from seeing something alive. The aftershock hit immediately. Insiders say the sequence shifted the show's center of gravity, turning future scenes toward a deeper register. There's talk of rewrites, of arcs bending to honor what the dance revealed. Some believe the characters can't return to who they were before that music started. And why would they? When two performers draw a line in the sand and then step over it, the project rises to meet them. It's a challenge, a promise, and a warning to complacency. From now on, the bar isn't where it was last week. It's wherever they said it with a look. The commentary machine went into overdrive, but not in the usual hollow way. Analysts dissected micro-expressions and breath patterns. Cultural critics name-checked grand cinema to explain why the sequence felt bigger than a weekly episode. A consensus emerged that sincerity was the engine. That's a dangerous word in entertainment, often used as a shield. Here, it felt like a blade. The emotion didn't announce itself. It arrived unflinching, as if Yağmur and Barış had decided to stop pretending where the line between acting and feeling was. And that choice, that risk, is what audiences recognized. It's why the moment lodged in the throat and refused to leave. The truth behind the curtain only deepens the allure. We're told the music wasn't chosen for trendiness but for narrative muscle, a melody with a spine that could carry their story without a single lyric. The choreography functioned like dialogue, each phrase an argument answered by the body instead of the tongue. Camera movements were plotted like punctuation, commas that let you breathe and periods that took the breath away. This was less a scene and more a short film smuggled into a primetime hour, crafted with the patience of people who knew they were attempting something rare. Unsurprisingly, phones began ringing. Producers from beyond the usual borders asked to look again. Offers started to cluster, rumors fanning out through Istanbul's corridors and beyond. Word is, the performance woke up international interest that had been circling the pair for a while but hadn't found its excuse to land. Casting directors, those professional dreamers, are reportedly name-checking Yağmur for roles that burn and bruise at once, and talking about Barış in phrases that include gravity and danger and charm that detonates close to the heart. Whether all of it materializes is tomorrow's story. What matters now is that the door shifted on its hinges. And then there's the fandom, always a step ahead. Threads bloomed comparing this spark to the duo's past work, connecting dots, building timelines, arguing that this is the moment everything clicked. International viewers added their voices, no translators needed. Passion is fluent in every language, and when it's framed with such visual confidence, borders don't mean much. People who had never heard their names a week earlier started to say them correctly, as if claiming a secret early. At Turkish Spotlight Secrets, we can't resist the deeper question tangled in all this glow. Where does technique melt into truth? When two actors carry the scene like a shared heartbeat, is it only professionalism honed to a blade, or did something genuinely unguarded slip through the net? Perhaps the reason it feels legendary in the making is because it refuses to settle for either answer. It lives in the charged space between. Let us know what you felt in that space. Did you see a story contained by a script, or something that spilled over its edges and stained your evening in the best possible way? Drop your thoughts below. And if you love the depth we chase here, your super thanks keeps our lights warm and our questions sharper. Let's talk aesthetics, because excellence doesn't happen by accident. The palette chose intimacy over spectacle, stealing warmth from shadow rather than drowning everything in glow. The camera dared to linger, trusting the audience's patience. The music carried a heartbeat that didn't rush them, and the silence made room for the smallest tremor. Those choices are expensive, not only in budget but in courage. Weekly television rarely gifts us a sequence this sculpted. One that behaves like a film slipped inside a show. The result is a timestamp in pop culture, the kind you can point to and say, we were there when it aired. Time has a habit of cooling viral moments. Not this one. Instead of fading, it spread roots. Editorials lingered. Panels replayed frames. Fellow actors whispered admiration with that specific tone that mixes praise with professional envy. People spoke about craft with fresh appetite, which might be the greatest compliment of all. And quietly, steadfastly, the scene kept rewriting expectations for what a romantic beat in a mainstream series can do. It turned a trope into a revelation. For Yağmur Yüksel, the aftermath looks like a door swinging open to roles with sharper edges and deeper wells, parts that ask for the kind of fearless subtlety she slipped into that night. For Barış Baktaş, the horizon stretches toward characters with knotted souls and clean silhouettes, men who hold their storms like they're keeping a promise. Together, they demonstrated the rarest thing, restraint that reads as fire. In a landscape obsessed with volume, they made quiet feel thunderous. Let's not pretend this was just a dance. It was a manifesto. A line drawn in candlelight. A challenge tossed to every lazy beat that thinks a close-up and a swelling soundtrack can counterfeit chemistry. This moment asked for bravery, from the performers who risked bareness, from the director who stepped back, from the crew who cocooned the set in reverence. It rewarded that bravery by becoming unforgettable. And if the series is wise, it will follow the trail this scene burned into its map. So here we are, still humming. We'll remember the night Yağmur and Barış didn't merely entertain, they reached through glass and pressed a palm to ours. They made us feel messy and seen. They proved why fiction matters, because when done with care, it returns pieces of ourselves we thought we'd misplaced. Will this be the beginning of a screen partnership people tell stories about years from now? Time is stubborn, and it doesn't give away answers cheaply. But tonight, we can say this much. A legend needs a first chapter, and we just watched one get written. Before we slip away, Turkish Spotlight Secrets family, tell us whose sparks you want us to chase next. Which duo do you suspect could threaten the heat of Yağmur and Barış? Write their names like a dare in the comments, we read them all, because your obsessions guide our hunt. Make sure you're subscribed, flip on notifications so you never miss a heartbeat, and share this video with the friend who swears they don't cry at TV. If you want to push us further, the join button and super thanks are our gasoline. Until next time, keep your ears tuned for quiet thunder, keep your eyes open for truth disguised as glamour, and as always, Turkish Spotlight Secrets.